Hello, folks. This is Joe from My Geek Scene. I'm at Youmacon with Yuri Lowenthal.
Howdy.
No, I'm not gonna fanboy fangirl over this.
Why not? I'm a total geek fanboy nerd humper. I don't even know. I don't even know where that goes.
And
but
that's what I appreciate about you, because while I was doing research on you, I was like, this is a laid back dude, and I was hoping to talk to him, and I appreciate this wonderful opportunity. For those who don't know, voice actor, producer. Owns a production company, Monkey Kingdom Productions. Is it? Right. Yeah, Monkey Kingdom.
Monkey Kingdom Productions. Nailed
Monkey Kingdom Productions.
We tried to get Monkey King Productions. It was already taken.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Son Goku.
Right? I know. See, you know the stuff.
Yes, but various roles: Ben 10, Sasuke from Naruto, and a laundry list, which I will not include because you can just look up his IMDb and you'll find a lot of other sweet things that he's done. I generally ask this opening question to voice actors, but what was your first exposure to anime? Not as a voice actor, but just as a regular human being.
My first exposure to anime was before I knew it was even called anime. When I was a kid, and I must have been, I don't even know, but I started out watching Speed Racer, Battle of the Planets, and Star Blazers. Battle of the Planets, which of course was Gatchaman, and
what was the official name for Star Blazers?
I mean, at the time, or no, that was even that was Robotech. That was like later.
That's true,
right? But Star Blazers was Uchusen Yamato, I think. Spaceship Yamato, I think.
Oh,
maybe,
man, Spaceship Yamamoto.
Or I think Wave Motion Gun and all that.
Oh my goodness, because
right.
Long time ago.
Gamelons?
This is not even on the questions. Like, my friend and I, we did a trade. Like, he lent me that movie, like the movie.
Oh, I still haven't seen the live action movie, which I hear.
Not the live action.
Oh, okay.
Like the anime movie. And I lent him Ninja Scroll.
Oh, snap. That's, yeah.
He got the better end out of that deal because I was watching this movie and it was so depressing. And I was like, oh my goodness. I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but.
I haven't, but I'll just go back watching Ninja Scroll again. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, Ninja Scroll. I mean, horrible things happen to people in that film, but.
Yeah, but if you like seeing horrible things happen to people, you can also see Urotsuki Doji, Legend of the Overfiend, and Supernatural Beast City. I think Supernatural Beast City was the same guys who did Ninja Scroll.
No kidding.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, folks, I just learned something new.
Right.
I mean, you could always learn something new.
Runs deep over here.
Speaking of cities, nice segue. You wrote a novella called Tough City.
Yes.
What was it about, and who or what were your pulp influences?
Oh, man. Raymond Chandler is sort of top of the list for pulp influences for me. I love hard-boiled detective fiction. I love film noir and hard-boiled detective movies. And so that was in the forefront. There is a book by Charles Bukowski called Pulp that I think really influenced the style. I didn't really realize it until after me and my co-author had written it. But then I went back and read Pulp again. I'm like, oh my God, this is totally where we stole our style from. But it was part of a 3-day novel writing contest. Was how it came about. And so a friend of mine from Vancouver, and I was living in New York at the time, we met in Wichita, Kansas, which is almost exactly in the middle, in between Vancouver and New York, and holed up in a motel and stayed awake for almost 3 days entirely and wrote a novella.
What was the general plot?
It's about a hard-on-his-luck detective who gets intertwined with this woman who's running away from a snuff film and being chased by gangsters. And it's weird and it's goofy and it's funny. I think above all, a lot of that stuff is really dark, and we wanted to take it in a funny way. It's also set sort of in a retro future, sort of Blade Runner type setting. So it's, I guess, like if Blade Runner was a comedy, maybe it'd be sort of like that.
So this was a comedic book.
Yeah,
I do extensive research, but I cannot say, and I won't lie to you, that, yeah, I read that.
No. Who's got time to do all that stuff? But yeah.
I make the time.
I appreciate it, Joe. You've already made more time than most of the interviews, just by your questions alone.
Oh, well.
Most of the interviews I've done, so.
Well, we'll continue with that. You have a martial arts background.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
I started, as a lot of American kids do, with Taekwondo.
Okay.
Although, strangely enough, I started studying Taekwondo in West Africa. It's not normally where you do it, but that's where I was living at the time. My dad was a foreign service guy, and we were in Niger. And so I started, and he and my dad was already a black belt in Taekwondo at that time.
Awesome.
So I was just sort of following in the family footsteps. So I did Taekwondo for a while, and then when I came back, I still did Taekwondo. But then I got bored with how just sort of very chunky it is, and I wanted to find something more flowy and rounder, sort of more circular. And so when I was in Japan, I found a Shaolin Kempo, Shorinji Kempo. Studied that for a while when I was at school there, and then, but that even that still wasn't what I wanted in the end. And so when I moved back and I was living in New York, I found a Wushu Kung Fu school.
Okay.
And that was my sweet spot. And unfortunately, when I moved from New York to Los Angeles, I wasn't able to find a similar community for that. And didn't really get the same feeling that I had and wanted from the place in New York, and I just stopped studying. So
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm a washed up martial arts geek.
I'm a kung fu student myself. So.
Outstanding.
Tai Chi.
Yeah.
And I take Tai Chi praying mantis kung fu.
Great.
So because I was gonna say like if you wanted like a martial arts style that was more circular and more flowing.
Yeah.
I mean obviously Tai Chi is good, but there's like
Sure.
so many schools of that. Bagua.
I have heard of Bagua.
Bagua. Circular, very circular, always continually moving and stuff like that. I mean, really, I haven't taken it myself, but I've read an entire book on it by, I forgot the name of the guy, but he wrote a whole book on basically why he feels that Bagua is the best martial arts style. But I don't believe in that philosophy of like this style is the best because everything has its weakness.
That's how I'm with my acting. I've studied many different styles and forms of acting, and with many teachers and many philosophies. And I would not say that like any one of them is the way to do it. I've just sort of cherry picked what I liked from each thing and gone on with it.
And as long, for me personally, for martial arts philosophy and a life philosophy, as long as you're just being a good person and not being a meathead, just go on your journey.
Listen to this guy. That's the secret to life, the universe, and everything.
Well, because if you go out and you be a meathead and you're trying to represent your school and you lose, that makes you look bad and makes your entire school look bad. So just be a good person.
Yeah. Plus, top of the list for me, if I ever get in a conflict, is try to talk my way out of it or run.
Yeah.
Still, even after years of training.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. You're the best. You're the best.
Right.
My mom sucks. I'm a terrible person.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah.
Speaking of martial arts,
yes.
you were the narrator for Films of Fury.
This guy. That was a high point for me.
Any favorite movies of the martial arts genre?
Yes. Man, there's so many.
Over mid-interview.
This is great. This is great. Well, we just met, and already I want to marry Joe. Another good reason that Tara's
not here. It's not even after dark yet.
Right?
Oh my goodness.
Wait till later.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've always loved martial arts films. I'm a huge fan of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee early on. And then, once you start, learning about some of the other guys who were there even before then and who have come, since, like, Donnie Yen's a fucking superstar. And, there's so much to love. But I would say of, like favorite, Drunken Master 2, I would say is one of the greatest martial arts films.
Okay.
I mean, Drunken Master has its own thing, but Drunken Master 2 is just transcendent. Iron Monkey is super fun. Yeah, and then they're just it just gets goofy. I mean, the early Shaw Brothers stuff, you can pick almost any one.
Oh, Shaw Kung Fu films.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Raid?
Yes. And The Raid Redemption.
I recently bought the second one, but I had to buy it from Canada because
really?
Canada and the UK have the uncut, unrated version.
Oh, snap.
The only thing is, like, the American version only had literally 4 seconds of frames cut out. But I mean, it was like,
still.
I found it on Amazon on Canada for like $6 American. I'm like, we'll do this right now. Blu-ray, thanks.
Right. And by snap, I mean like snap necks, because if you haven't seen The Raid or The Raid Redemption or the new film by the Mo brothers who called Headshot, which still stars Iko Uwais. But they're the guys who did a lot of the choreography for The Raid, a lot of the combat for a lot of the fight choreography. They have a new film called Headshot, which I tried to see as part of a film festival, but the drive crashed and we missed it. Headshot, I'm looking forward to it. Apparently it's brutal.
I'm learning more things with Yuri Lowenthal.
Well, give and take. That's what a good interview is.
I try. Well, we dropped Monkey Kingdom Productions a little bit earlier, but you played the doctor of the Whovian type in a short called About Last Night. Was your doctor based on a particular doctor?
My doctor was an amalgamation. It was tough going into it. I asked the director. I said, "Do you want me to be doing a specific doctor? Would you do the doctor the way that I would play him?" And I would play him. Just right now, I will have you know that my dream would be to the first American doctor. But I mean, if he has an influence, I would say he was probably a mixture of Tom Baker, who the fourth Doctor, who's my doctor, because he was my first. But Dave Tennant was still my favorite. He leans into sort of the Dave Tennant area for sure.
Quick, we're gonna take a diversion real quick.
Did
you watch David Tennant as
Hamlet?
No, Killgrave and Jessica Jones.
I saw the pilot, so I saw a little bit of him, but I have not finished the series. I mean, I'll watch anything with him in it, to be honest.
Watch it. It is
Broadchurch, so great.
It is extremely good.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got catching up to do.
I've been a big fan of Marvel comics, and I know you enjoy comics as well.
I do.
When you were a kid, and we'll get back to that. But
yes, please.
we will. But I would have to say, because I was familiar with Jessica Jones before when it became a show. I was like, oh, I read the comic that was based off of. He was the Purple Man or Killgrave, and when he played it, I was like, this is my first exposure to you. I knew you were a doctor. I'm not a Whovian. Right. My girlfriend is, so please forgive me, folks out there.
Hey, it's okay. We've all got our own nerddoms.
But I would highly recommend checking out Jessica Jones because his performance and all. Like, there's times like you feel bad for his character, but then he just screws it up all over again. Like, yep, I hate you. You were a terrible person.
Oh, right, you are the villain. Yeah, no, that's great. It's not a matter of not wanting to see it. It's just a matter of scheduling all this good must-see TV these days.
Well, speaking of Marvel characters, you once stated that you would be interested in playing Moonknight. Wow. Why does that character resonate with you?
Yeah, I think it hit me at the right time in my life. Also, I'm a big fan of Batman. He was sort of Marvel's answer to Batman, but I mean, they took it in a really weird way. But there's in some ways even more interesting than the Batman mythology. But it also came at a time when the artist Bill Sienkiewicz was drawing Moonknight. Moonknight was doing the artwork, and it was so different than anything I had ever seen, and so dark and weird and scary that it made. And that was when I really started collecting comics again. I mean, I collected comics, read comics when I was much younger, and then right about that time, which was probably when I was about 10 or 11, is when I started like collecting comics. And right into the whole era of small print run and independent publishers. But yeah, Moonknight, there's something about him. It's also getting to play 3 different guys.
Yes, I mean, well, I never knew how to pronounce that artist's last name. I was like Bill, and I'm like,
yeah, I know.
I stopped.
Sienkiewicz.
Like some of his works I've seen, I'm like, wow, your art is just so distinct, especially like later on.
Yeah, Electra Assassin.
Yes, I've read that.
Yeah, Stray Toasters, I think, maybe, or was that Ted McKeever? I don't know. They were both weird and edgy and super cool at the time.
Did he do Purple Orchid too?
Maybe.
Or Black Orchid.
Orchid.
Yeah, Orchid. That's the word, folks.
Maybe right. Something.
Something. I mean, like I'll just put a into it every word. Speaking of comics. Yourself, your wife, and I have mutual friends in Michigan natives, Comfort and
Adam. I was gonna say we got to see them last night briefly, and maybe after this interview, I'll go surprise them in Artist Alley if they're there.
You should. Well, I hope they're there. They're always a staple of Michigan.
I know they're so good,
and they're so nice too. Yeah. Like I've known them before. A little on and off. I would talk to them at various shows before I started the whole My Geek Scene thing, and like I was fortunate. They allowed me. They took some time out of their busy schedule to allow me to do an interview with them.
They're busy.
But really cool people. How did you guys meet?
We met at another convention. We met at Almacon, I want to say, a few years ago. And I loved their art and bought a few pieces. And we stayed in touch. And then when Tara and I, my wife Tara Platt, when we wanted to do a comic based on a short film that we had made, and a property that we're trying to develop into a much bigger, TV show, Topsy McGee versus the Sky Pirates.
I've watched that.
course you have. We didn't know really how to make a comic book, but we knew that Comfort and Adam did, and they're a husband-wife creative team, and we're a husband-wife creative team, and it seemed like a good fit, and we reached out to them, and they've been so supportive, and they're the reason that we have a comic book to start with.
Will there be any more Topsy McGee down the road? Because I know you hinted at it, Mister. I have my katana blade in the background. I'm gonna just push this up a little bit.
Right, I know. I love that final pose. Available online if you guys want to check it out. It's a short that we did, a steampunk short. But yes, we would love to. There has been a pilot written for a hour-long TV show that I love. That I had nothing to do with the writing on that, but we worked with a great writer and showrunner to do that. We're shopping that around. We're hoping that somebody bites on steampunk one of these days. But 2 more issues. We've got the 1 issue of the comic book. It's not available yet because I want to have all 3 done.
Okay.
It's a 3-part story, and I don't want to have people waiting, as long as it takes us to make the next issue. I'd rather have all 3 done, and release it that way, or release them a month apart or something.
No, that sounds completely cool. Mm-hmm. You and your wife also were in a Spinal Tap mockumentary called Con Artist.
Yes, sir.
Would you care to talk about that a little bit? I already know what it is.
To. Yeah, I do. Joe has won my heart. We did. We found that the world of conventions and the convention scene, which I've been on both sort of sides of, in the sense that when I was much younger, I used to go to conventions, and then when we got into the entertainment business, now we're sort of approaching it from a different time. But I love the convention scene, but it's a really weird place for voice actors because you don't know what a voice actor looks like normally. So we're not the kind of actors who get recognized on the street. But when you go to a convention, you're famous, and then you walk outside and you're nobody again. And it was always this really interesting dynamic. And we thought that deserves sort of a Christopher Guest, mockumentary style comedy. So we booked a few extra conventions than we were normally going to go to that year. We did 11 conventions, I think, that year, which is, I know for some people, not a huge load, but for us was a lot. And we filmed these little vignettes about these 2 actors, sort of full of themselves, playing versions of ourselves, sort of twisted versions of ourselves
was it turned
on the
to
year.
11?
It was turned up to 11 conventions. But it's super fun. And is really a love letter to not only the con community, but the anime convention community in particular, because those were a lot of the places that we went. So if you want to see some of your favorite voice actors on camera goofing on themselves, if you want to see what it looks like from our end through a very warped lens, then check out Con Artists.
Well, I will say this, though. Am I allowed to talk about a scene from it?
Sure. Yes, please tease them.
One of the scenes I enjoyed was you 2 and Boris were with your shades at night, Corey Hart, trying to get into a bar. And then
You're not old enough to get that rep.
I'm 35, sir. I am old enough to.
Still older than him by a lot. But yeah. Okay,
but I
fair
love
enough.
how you were walking up and wouldn't let you in, and you did the voice oh, my kids know you, and then out of nowhere you pulled out the autograph cards. I lost it when I saw that. I just completely lost it. I'm like, oh my goodness, this. Well
Does he carry those everywhere? Right. Yeah.
And one thing I will have to say, folks, if you're ever interested in getting into voice acting, you should check this out. But talk to Steve Bloom.
Yeah.
Because he has connections. He might.
Oh, he's got connections.
He has connections.
Right.
He might have to do some things.
To Steve Bloom.
But he's got connections.
He's got a very comfy lap.
Well, into the more, I guess, charitable side of yourself, 2 things I wanted to talk about. Your Vocality campaign.
Wow, yeah. Yeah. You continue to surprise me, Joe.
That's what I do. Would you care to talk about it? I know it's over.
Yeah, and you even pronounced it correctly. I for the longest time I pronounced it VocalID.
I wrote
but yeah.
then I wrote
oh,
Vocality.
nice. Yeah. Is a company that we'd seen a TED talk on, and it's a company that creates individualized voices for people without voices. So if they were born with vocal cords that didn't work in the standard way, or if they lost their voice in an accident or had nerve damage or whatever and couldn't speak, they pretty much, if ever they wanted to talk, it was always that Stephen Hawking style synthetic voice. And this company wanted to be able to create personalized voices for all those people, so their voice sounded different, each person. And so what they do is you can donate your voice in a sense by signing up with them and reading into your laptop these phrases that they've got, that then they can take all these phrases and break them down into sounds and homonyms, or anyway, they break them down and create, and then take your voice and a bunch of other people's voices. So it's not like they're going to sound exactly like you, but they weave it together with other people's samples and can give these people voices of their own. And we thought, hey, that's amazing and genius, but also because of what we do for a living, what a great thing to support. So we reached out to the voice acting community, who are, and from professional people, veterans who've been doing it for years and years, to people who get in touch with us often and say, hey, I want to start voice acting. What's a good way to start? And we asked them to join with us in this vocal drive, and we were so happily surprised by the response we got, because it takes time. It's hours and hours of reading sentences into your laptop, but it was great, and we're really happy with the way it turned out.
And you were also in the process of creating a pilot for normalizing PTSD in society. How far along are you?
We shot the pilot. The show is called Breaking Silence.
Okay.
I work with an organization in San Diego, a guy named Rick Collins, and his organization Vets 360 is set up started out for soldiers who are suffering from post-traumatic stress. We want to try to take the D off of PTSD because that's post-traumatic stress disorder. We don't believe it's a disorder. We believe it's the body's normal reaction to an abnormal situation, and that it's not limited to veterans. It's odds are either you or someone throughout your life will be affected by that, and it can happen to any number of people. First responders, police, EMTs, fire, anyone who survives a disaster, anyone who was abused when they were younger or older, or anyone who was mugged, or the list goes on and on of how it can affect non-military people. And yet there is a stigma attached to talking about it. People feel that it's a weakness, I should just suck it up, especially in the military. No, talk about it. False, absolutely false. And that's the stigma that kills, because a lot of people say, oh, I can't talk about it. You get depressed, and you're like, you can only see one way out, suicide, and that's not the case. And in shooting this first, which is available online if you go to breakingsilence.com, we talked with some vets, some Marines and Navy corpsmen who fought at Ramadi in 2004, and how they've dealt with post-traumatic stress since then. Community for them has been huge, and being able to talk about it with their community, people who understand them, has probably kept a lot of them alive. And the goal of this show, if we can get some support and do more, we'd love to do each season to be about a different group of people suffering from post-traumatic stress, and to show that, if you can build a community that can talk about it, then we could drastically improve people, the lives of people suffering from that right now.
No, I understand. I have a coworker who served, and he goes to a support group, and it's helped him and stuff. Great. But unfortunately, we're gonna have to start wrapping this up.
But this is so much fun. How many questions are we from the end? And
it's actually the last 3 questions.
Okay, well let's make sure we get the last 3 questions.
We'll get the last 3 questions.
Okay.
This is the typical wrap up.
Okay,
questions.
Fair enough.
What's new that you can talk about?
You know the deal. Not
I know.
much.
Going back into the business portion of this interview.
That's okay. We want to talk about some business. Still looking for a home for Topsy McGee. We are working on the comic book. There's a strike currently going on, an interactive strike, for the video game contract right now.
I certainly wasn't going to bring that up. I didn't know if that was touchy with you, but if you would like to talk about it, feel free to.
It's okay. I'll address it briefly. We're trying to resolve it. We tried negotiating for 2 years, and then it, all that was left was for us to strike. But we're hoping that we can come to a resolution, because nobody wants the strike. Nobody wants to not be working. But there were some things that needed to change that hadn't changed in many, many, many years. And unfortunately, this was a last resort situation. I can't stress enough that it's not actors against devs. We love the devs, and if anything, us banding together to do this hopefully will give them strength, because they don't have a union to bind them together, and it's a lot tougher for devs, I think, to demand the things that we think that they also deserve.
Especially like with their some of the horror stories you've heard about, like production.
Yeah. And
like long work hours and just burning out.
And much in the same way that many of the employers, and I will also stress that it's not all, game companies, producers, and employers. Some of them have agreed to the contract. So we're only striking against certain companies that are unwilling to work with us on that. But many of the employers look at actors in the same way that they look at devs, and treat us the same way that they treat the devs. And that's one of the things they've come to and said throughout these negotiations is, okay, well, if you don't want to take this deal, then we'll just go find somebody out of acting school or whatever, a brand new kid who's hungry, or somebody off the street, to do your job. And they do the same things to the devs. Oh, you don't want to? Oh, you want to get paid for that overtime? Because I can find somebody who will work 80 hours a week, and they'll happily, not get paid overtime. So we're just taking the first step. If devs decide to do that, and as well, we'll stand by their side. There's nobody we regard more highly than them, and we realize that making games is a group process. It's just like making movies and everything. It's a community thing, and that's one of the things that drew me to the entertainment business. And you don't build anything alone, and I love working with groups. So hopefully the strike will get resolved soon, because we all want to get back to working.
So hopefully
we can sign more NDAs, so I can't talk about things.
So at some point down in the future, people looking at this like, oh, so that was what like during that time, and things are much better.
Exactly. But Titanfall 2 just came out, so I can talk about that. There's what else is, I don't know, man. It's always so dangerous.
Fair enough. No,
but there's plenty. I promise.
I hear a knock at the door. It's knee breakers right now. So
sorry, right. We don't want that. Yeah.
If people wanted to find out more about you online, where could they go?
They can go to yurilowenthal.com. But I'd say the best place to interact with me is Twitter. I'm at Yuri Lowenthal on Twitter. Oh, okay. Here are two other things that.
Sorry.
No.
Segue back into
I'll segue back into it.
No, we're out of time, kid.
Oh, Joe.
No, go on, kid. You're bothering me. When you're on Joe from My Geek Scenes time, I don't know why I'm talking like I've been smoking stogies for a long time. My time is valuable. You've been wasting my time right now.
You're wasting my time, kid.
This isn't like when I interviewed Steve Bloom. We both did terrible Harvey Firestein impressions.
You guys, I'm sure, do it better than I do.
No,
I've got that.
No, like a friend of mine,
reedy kid's voice.
A friend of mine who watched that video was like, "You both get B minuses for that." And I thought that was hilarious. But no, the two things you wanted to talk about.
Yes, I've got a new show on the Geek and Sundry's Twitch stream, which is Wednesdays from 1 to 2. It's called Super Animation Game Time. Me and my co-host John Roca interview people who work in games and animation. Because I know a lot of voice actors, often it's voice actors, but we try to get writers, developers, casting people, producers, animators, mixers, everybody who is involved in the process in, because we find the whole process interesting. And I do, if you can believe this, a weekly Mad Max Fury Road podcast. Called
I didn't even know that.
You didn't know that? I stumped Joe finally at the very end.
Oh my goodness!
It's called You Are Awaited, and my friend Travis Santel and I watched 4 minutes of the movie Mad Max Fury Road because we loved it so much, and do an episode on just 4 minutes at a time. But occasionally we'll have guests on to also talk about the film in its entirety, some of whom worked on Fury Road. It's our way of indulging our fascination and our love of the film. We've 44 I think we're up to 44 episodes right now, all on the same movie. If you're out there and you can't get enough Mad Max Fury Road, You Are Awaited is the show for you.
Please don't hate me. I've not seen it.
That's okay. I envy the fact that you have that to look forward to.
Okay, I thought it was like, Joe, we've been having a great interview. But
no. I used to be that guy. I'm like, how could you not have seen the... But then I realized, oh my God, you get to see it for the first time.
That's a good way of looking
jealous.
At it. Like, I can't believe you've never even watched this. You can't even... Like, I feel like I don't even know you anymore.
I know.
Walk out, tears streaming down your face.
You're gonna send me away from this interview crying?
I'm like, Judas!
Single tear.
Final question.
Hit me.
What would you like to say to your fans?
I would like to say to my fans what I say normally to my fans, and just to the fan community in general, even if you're not my fan, but you're a fan of something, thank you, because you've built an amazing community. And also, I would not get to do the job that I do without you guys loving it and supporting it, watching it, buying it, all of that, coming to conventions. So here's my thanks to you for allowing me to, or for making it possible for me to do the job that I do.
All right. Well said, sir.
Thank you.
Well, folks, this is Joe from My Geek Scene, sadly ending this interview with Yuri Lowenthal at Youmacon 2016.
So
it is actually rather sad. I've been enjoying this time, and I appreciate the opportunity. I mean, this was great. I mean, yes, I'm blubbering right now, but I had a lot of fun doing this. So.
Right on. Me too. Me too. I'll throw up a V8 for you. That's, if you haven't seen, it's a Mad Max.
Oh, okay. I was like V8, like the drink, like.
No, like the car, but okay. Oh man, great crossover potential for ads for V8 and Mad Max Fury Road.
You know,
plus it looks like blood, so it's.
When you're having a when you're trying to survive in a post-apocalyptic future, your throat gets parched. So I like to grab for a nice V8. Well, folks, this is Joe from My Geek Scene with Yuri Lowenthal at Youmacon 2016. Take it easy.